well, so good to finally meet you and be able to talk to you because I mean this whole series has been great, but when we got to your episode, it's so interesting, and you got to be excited about the way it came out too because I don't really think there's been something else quite like this, right?
I know, yeah, it was fantastic. And, to give so much time to like long interview form is something, it's amazing. But, yeah, I don't know, everything has been done with horror writers specifically. So it was pretty, yeah, I was pretty surprised and amazed.
Oh, that's great. Well, of course, horror means a lot to a lot of people, and then, of course, with with you, it's been a big part of your life, and as we've come to find out a little bit more of your story. But when did the horror bug for everybody else kind of bite you, so to speak?
Oh, well, there were phases, but let's say when I was kid, I will talk fiction, not real horror, because that's life.
Yeah.
But in fiction, when I was a kid, I was very drawn, especially to gothic horror, like Mary Shelley, the Brontes, that kind of that atmosphere, locked rooms, I mean, that lonely women, vampires.
Yeah.
That was my first era, let's say.
Hmm.
Second era was clearly Stephen King. That was very important to me. This is the 80s,
Hmm.
because up to that point, to me, horror was something I really enjoyed. But when I read, but it was remote, castles, even Poe or Lovecraft, old things.
Hmm.
But with King, it was like, wow, this is a high school. This is a hotel. This is a guy that beats her wife. This is, this is a guy that loses his family to a truck, and then there's a cat, and everything was and this is about grief, and this is about school shooting. I don't know. It was like, wow, he's putting it in the now.
Hmm.
And and from that, and he's a very generous writer. Like, for example, I got to Peter Straub
Hmm.
with him, and got to Shirley Jackson. That was impossible to find in Spanish, but it was, an epigraph in a book, and I said, yeah, I have to find her. And he was like an opener of many things, and many literary things, I think.
Hmm.
And so that became like the third phase of writing horror.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, now of course people are looking up to you, and they're saying you as like the great writer that they want to emulate. And so, what kind of advice would you give to those writers that want to do what you do so well?
I don't know if I do it so well, but what I do is trying to trying to find what's true. True is a very big word, but honest in what you're trying to say. Like, for example, I love Stephen King, especially early Stephen King, but it's good stuff always. But what really was important to me was like, at that point of my life, I was like, I really like horror, okay? But what kind of horror can I write from here? Because all my examples are from, I don't know, Providence, snow. I haven't
Hmm.
seen snow at this point of my life. No, and I'm from Latin America, but also from Argentina. That is not like your regular kind of marvelous, colorful thing. This is a very industrial city, Buenos Aires, and beautiful, but in another way. So uh, it was, okay, this guy is talking about social issues.
Hmm.
What are my social issues in my country? And do that translation. And then take something like popular religion or religiosity that it's particularly ours and comes from local mythology, put that in our urban legends that are different from the urban legends from other places, and our literature that it's in Spanish and it deals with the fantastic in a different way. So make a combo with that. And when I mean being true or being honest, it's thinking what is that it's in your life and your culture that scares you, but not saying, not closing the door to influences that are not particular, because that becomes parody too. When I read horror that is completely, that uses elements of only local elements of a certain Latin American culture, me that I know it is very parodic to me, and it's very, I'm trying to sell you, the hot weather horror experience. And it's like, oh, it's so embarrassing because our, culture, literary culture of horror is mixed. That's how it is, because we don't have it in any, and it's okay that it's like that. And that was real. So that's my advice in any case is don't try to be what you're not.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. And I think the thing is for writers though, also it's hard. Even if you're good at it, sometimes the words just don't come to you, or sometimes the stories aren't what we originally imagined in our minds. So what is it that you keep in mind that kind of keeps you on that right path and keeps you focused always?
It's very difficult now, I find, writing, because there's too many distractions.
Yeah.
Really. And like life became that. Life became much more distracted in general. I struggle with that. So in short, what I do is like work less hours
Mhm.
and try to maximize the focus, not work against distraction or losing your focus, because that frustrates you, and that's the worst of it. Like, it's not, of course, this frustrate is to write is work, and of course there's part of it that are frustrating, and that is only natural. But it's another thing that the process is of frustration, that nothing can come out of it. So it's not exactly the word trying to enjoy, but in a way, yes, like make the most of your time and try to have fun. It's supposed to be fun. Even in the work can be fun. And then even afterwards, you have to translate to correct anyway, and to go to edition and everything, that is never going to be fun. So when you're creating, try to keep it like that. I'm not a person that thinks that you have to suffer for your art. That's ridiculous.
Yes.
But it's very frustrating now that after 1 hour of writing, you really need to check your messages.
Yes.
And my advice is check your messages and then go back. And then go back, because that adds to the suffering and to the frustration. And that if you are, it's hard for you to find your words. If you try to make a cocoon as you are living in a world that is not, how the real world works, is going to be worse. Just, it's difficult for everybody, but writing. And also it can be very ungrateful, because you finish something that is amazing, and then who publishes it, who reads it, and sometimes it takes a long time.
Yeah.
But if you choose it.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes it chooses you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, so you're probably familiar with the Hail Mary term in religion, but of course in American football we talk about the Hail Mary, where you do that, throw the Hail Mary and just hope for the best. And so you've had a really interesting life. I'm so curious about your Hail Mary moment, which is that moment in your life or career where you just kind of had to go for it, and it worked out for you. What do you suppose that was for you?
Oh, I started writing realistic fiction, not
Hmm.
horror.
Yeah.
I had 2 novels in realistic fiction. One did very well, especially because I was very young. So everybody was curious about what this girl was writing about. It was a lot, I had a lot of sex and. And And then the second one did very well with the critics and stuff, but that was not what I wanted to write. I wanted to write horror.
Hmm.
So that was the moment.
Yeah.
When I kind of had a path. You know, I was doing journalism. I had two novels. I was in a path, and I was that moment that I said, these novels, I respect them, they're good, but this is not what I want to do. And so I just, the first thing I wrote in horror was a short story, and I published it, and that was it.
Yeah.
But it was like presenting myself again to my readers in Spanish. It was like, oh, she's not doing realistic social political fiction anymore. She's writing about, you know,
Mhm.
violence and perversion and things like that. But it was now or never at that
Yeah.
point. And
Yeah.
yeah, that was
Oh
it.
wow. Well, after this, I cannot wait to see what you got next for us. Do you have a new book coming? Anything like that that we should know about?
Yeah, there's a book coming in September by the same publishers, by Hogarth. It's
Hmm.
not exactly horror, but when I explain to you, you say, oh yeah, but it's the same. It's a travelogue of cemeteries of the world.
Hmm.
I'm obsessed with cemeteries, and I've been like investigating cemeteries since my teenager, basically.
Wow.
And at
Wow.
one point I decided to make them into a book, but this is a selection would come because I have infinite. I have I don't know how many, and so it's part. I don't know. It's part diary.
Hmm.
It's non-fiction and personal. It's part diary. It's part anthropology. It's part stories of those cemeteries. Some are scary, some are not,
Hmm.
and it's called "Someone's Walking on Your Grave."
Hmm.
Somebody's walking on your grave. Don't know what's the exact it's about that saying that is somebody walked on my grave.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, it's that. Because sometimes when you explore cemeteries like I do, you walk on people's graves, really.
Hmm.
You have to. If
Yeah.
you want to see a mausoleum, you have to say, but I'm sorry, uncle, but I'm going to step on you and look. And it's that kind of urban exploration. It's lots of things. I think it's a lot of fun, but God knows if people want to read like 300 pages of a woman
Yeah.
roaming cemeteries.
Well, that sounds fascinating. I definitely want to check that out, and we're going to tell everybody to check out your episode here because it's fascinating, and thank you for all the great work that you've given us, and hopefully we'll get to talk again very, very soon.
Oh, thank you very much, Paul.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.